At the end of the day, you are solely responsible for your success and your failure. And the sooner you realize that, you accept that, and integrate that into your work ethic, you will start being successful. As long as you blame others for the reason you aren't where you want to be, you will always be a failure. We need to teach the next generation of children from day one that they are responsible for their lives. Mankind's greatest gift, also its greatest curse, is that we have free choice. We can make our choices built from love or from fear. I'm a teenager, but I'm independent. I have my own apartment, I have my own life, and I think I have learned more than any of those teenagers have in school. I learned to be responsible, leaving my family and coming here alone. I'm responsible for what I say, but I'm not responsible about how people interpret my situation. It is not only for what we do that we are held responsible, but also for what we do not do. Sometimes people ask me how difficult the astronaut program was, but being in Sierra Leone, being responsible for the health of more than 200 people, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, at age 26, that prepared me to take on a lot of different challenges. Sensible and responsible women do not want to vote. The relative positions to be assumed by man and woman in the working out of our civilization were assigned long ago by a higher intelligence than ours. A responsible choice is a choice that creates consequences that you are willing to assume responsibility for. Alas, after a certain age every man is responsible for his face. Democracy's a very fragile thing. You have to take care of democracy. As soon as you stop being responsible to it and allow it to turn into scare tactics, it's no longer democracy, is it? It's something else. It may be an inch away from totalitarianism. In the last analysis, the individual person is responsible for living his own life and for finding himself. If he persists in shifting his responsibility to somebody else, he fails to find out the meaning of his own existence. Had the United States and the United Kingdom gone on alone to capture Baghdad, under the provisions of the Geneva and Hague Conventions we would have been considered occupying powers and therefore would have been responsible for all the costs of maintaining or restoring government, education and other services for the people of Iraq. You need to understand, if you take out a government, take out a regime, guess who becomes the government and regime and is responsible for the country? You are. So if you break it, you own it. Above all, I would teach him to tell the truth. Truth-telling, I have found, is the key to responsible citizenship. The thousands of criminals I have seen in 40 years of law enforcement have had one thing in common: every single one was a liar. Entrepreneurs and their small enterprises are responsible for almost all the economic growth in the United States. Why should society feel responsible only for the education of children, and not for the education of all adults of every age? I believe in justice, and I believe in people being held responsible for their actions. Since St. Augustine announced that Eve, and, hence, collective woman, was responsible for original sin, rabid sexism has been a major pillar of patriarchal religious tradition. Remember, you and you alone are responsible for maintaining your energy. Give up blaming, complaining and excuse-making, and keep taking action in the direction of your goals, however mundane or lofty they may be. We must differentiate between guilt and duty. The soldier on the front, like the common man, who does his duty everywhere, should not be held responsible for the actions of a few who also called themselves Germans. Perhaps it is better to be irresponsible and right, than to be responsible and wrong. A true community is not just about being geographically close to someone or part of the same social web network. It's about feeling connected and responsible for what happens. Humanity is our ultimate community, and everyone plays a crucial role. I have to be responsible with my character, my image and my reputation. Nothing is more responsible for the good old days than a bad memory. Hold yourself responsible for a higher standard than anybody expects of you. Never excuse yourself. To what extent is any given man morally responsible for any given act? We do not know. I am responsible only to God and history. Letting go helps us to live in a more peaceful state of mind and helps restore our balance. It allows others to be responsible for themselves and for us to take our hands off situations that do not belong to us. This frees us from unnecessary stress. We do not know what we want and yet we are responsible for what we are, that is the fact. Gravitation is not responsible for people falling in love. Every woman needs one man in her life who is strong and responsible. Given this security, she can proceed to do what she really wants to do: fall in love with men who are weak and irresponsible. Each man is questioned by life, and he can only answer to life by answering for his own life. To life he can only respond by being responsible. It's a profound privilege to die from stress-related diseases. It is the elimination of other causes of death such as infectious disease which is responsible for bringing lifestyle diseases to the fore, and these are exquisitely sensitive to stress. You are responsible for the energy that you create for yourself, and you're responsible for the energy that you bring to others. Leave no authority existing not responsible to the people. You know, true love really matters, friends really matter, family really matters. Being responsible and disciplined and healthy really matters. Affection is responsible for 9/10 of whatever solid and durable happiness there is in our lives. We may not all be equally guilty, but we are all equally responsible for building a decent and just society. The Old Testament is responsible for more atheism, agnosticism, disbelief, call it what you will, than any book ever written. It has emptied more churches than all the counter-attractions of cinema, motorbicycle, and golf course. In life, you can blame a lot of people and you can wallow in self-pity, or you can pick yourself up and say, listen, I have to be responsible for myself. The most important thing about global warming is this: whether humans are responsible for the bulk of climate change is going to be left to the scientists. But it's all of our responsibility to leave this planet in better shape for the future generations than we found it. No snowflake in an avalanche ever feels responsible. I think it's important that people think about what they are doing, and that includes what they are eating. I am 61 now and attitudes towards drinking and driving have changed radically since I was a student. People change their notion of what is responsible. They will increasingly ask about the carbon content of their food. At the end of the day, you're responsible for yourself and your actions, and that's all you can control. So rather than be frustrated with what you can't control, try to fix the things you can. Problems or successes, they all are the results of our own actions. Karma. The philosophy of action is that no one else is the giver of peace or happiness. One's own karma, one's own actions are responsible to come to bring either happiness or success or whatever. Design, if it is to be ecologically responsible and socially responsive, must be revolutionary and radical. Nuclear power will help provide the electricity that our growing economy needs without increasing emissions. This is truly an environmentally responsible source of energy. My mother is a big believer in being responsible for your own happiness. She always talked about finding joy in small moments and insisted that we stop and take in the beauty of an ordinary day. When I stop the car to make my kids really see a sunset, I hear my mother's voice and smile. Remember that your imagination is yours and yours alone. You have the inborn capacity to use it in any way that you choose. No one else is responsible for your imagination. Anything placed in your imagination and held there ultimately becomes your reality. Whoever will be free must make himself free. Freedom is no fairy gift to fall into a man's lap. What is freedom? To have the will to be responsible for one's self. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.